ladies and gentlemen. This market never fails. It really doesn't. Welcome. It's the Bitcoin live pump as it happens right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and keep this live short and sweet and just break down a few things for you. We've had a very interesting day, to say the least. I mean, the NASDAQ has been... it's not really doing too much, but yet Bitcoin is leading with a nice move to the upside. And I'm just going to highlight some key levels for you just so that you are fully aware of how to manage plays when you've got this sort of environment. Okay, so if you are new, welcome to Traders Reality. My name is Tino. Yes, this live is a little bit impromptu because when Bitcoin pumps, that's when I need to step in on the lives and start telling you all it's going to be doomed to hell. It's going to be horrible. Bitcoin's going to crash. Obviously, hopefully that's not the case. But I am going to give you some flavor on understanding what to do when you do witness this, because some of you may be in profits. Some of you are working out whether you should be adding to it or not. Some of you might be on spot thinking, is now a good time to just get rid of it? But I'm going to break it all down for you and give you a number of scenarios so that you guys have got enough information to take that with you and do what you need to do with it. All right. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get with the program and break this madness right now. Here we go. Bitcoin, where we at? Nice all-time high, you know, very good. I mean, it's kissed it. It's a nice kiss, you know, when you're like the little quick peck on the cheek. That's what Bitcoin's done. It's an all-time high, even if it is $3 more than what it was. It's an all-time high. Can't say that about XRP now, can you? Anyways, let's break it down. Earlier on today, we were talking about the idea of the last couple of days. I've been giving you guys the idea that as long as price is above the 5 and 13 EMA, then there is favor to see the move to the upside, okay? Now, quite frankly, this move has been a very, very sharp move, to say the least. And the news from the Federal Reserve minutes today, just to put it into perspective for you, says here that the Fed is a little bit mixed on their response to what's going on with the tariffs and how that's going to look for inflation. Although they are sort of saying that we might get ourselves a little bit of an increase in prices, but naturally that's not going to be an impact in the bigger picture. But they are sort of, it says here, markets do not expect the FOMC will cut rates later this month. So the idea of July cut is out the window. And we know that from the CME bets themselves coming in at 95%. As you can see, we'll quickly go over to it right now, just to put it into perspective. 30th of July, you've got this logic. 93% are expecting that rates are going to stay the same. And by the way, any of you, don't worry about the red shirt, man. The red shirt is fine. It doesn't mean that everything is going to go down. It's when I wear the red Lacoste shirt, that's when you got to be concerned. Because remember, I've got all the vector candles as shirts, okay? If I pull out a Lacoste vector candle shirt, that's when you get worried. This is not Lacoste. It's just a random t-shirt, okay? So don't worry. It's not a negative thing, but I'm going to give you something that's going to make you understand what to be aware of when you're trading all-time highs. So 93% is the expectation that rates are not going to get cut. And this is where the market is right now. Going over to the stock market, because it's going to help you understand where we are. NASDAQ is slowly moving up. Now, I'm going to say this to you all right now, okay? And it's something that I am going to address with the Platinum members earlier on. This is what I mean about this marketplace. Okay, it's very, very difficult to navigate because of the sporadic nature of the way investors are behaving. Okay, let me just draw your attention to something. Here is a setup that I gave earlier on today for the Platinum members. I want you to look at this, not because I'm just trying to get you all to join the Platinum membership. Fuck that. That's not what I'm trying to get you to understand here. I'm trying to get you to understand that how difficult the markets are. Okay, in terms of the sporadic nature that the markets are behaving as. Look, I gave two entry points. The two entry points were on Bitcoin. Entry at 109,348 and then second entry 109,700. I said the following: if you take this entry, please give more room for the stop. Ideally allow the 110,300 to be the region where you place a stop. Okay? Now, look at what had happened earlier on. From this range, we anticipated Bitcoin was going to make a move to the upside, okay? Equally, when it hits these ranges of 109,700, and they took that short, and I did say to the guys on the video that if Bitcoin is pumping up and it doesn't look like it's stopping, wait till you start to see a candlestick wick or red vector candle that comes into play at the highs. Let's go and have a look at Bitcoin from that logic. And I'm talking about this range right here. Forget this move to the upside. This is what we're talking about. The entry point would have been triggered right here. If you went to the top side of the block of the vector candle, you would have been triggered at 109,771. Our entry was 109,700. So $71 drawdown on Bitcoin's price if you took that entry, okay, for a short. From that move, you would have then seen Bitcoin come all the way down and clear a $1,300 move to the downside. Now, the targets themselves, what I initially wanted was, in principle, target 1, daily open, target 2, 108,265, target 3, 107,874, right? So where did we go to? We went all the way down towards the 108,494, and the first target in principle was the daily open, 108,919. So they came in and violated that whole range, and then they reversed and consolidated and straight back up. Go to the smaller time frames. Look, it started off with a violet vector candle, okay? Ideally, I want a red vector. Can bet you that there was a red vector candle coming in from the highs up here. There she is. Red vector candle right there, breaking towards the 50 EMA. This one would have confirmed it. Then you would have been able to see a nice move to the downside. When you scalp these markets, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for at least anything between $1,000 to $1,500 move in Bitcoin, and that is a nice profitable day. All right, when we see these big moves to the upside, that's where you say to yourself, how was I able to capitalize on that opportunity? Bitcoin's been trading sideways and it's not giving anyone a direction, and then it just makes the bold move to the upside. Has Bitcoin got every reason to go to the upside? In principle, yes, because of the accumulation that's been going off on the Arkham itself, okay? We know that Bitcoin is at 700,000 on the Arkham. Well, it hasn't hit that yet, but it doesn't show it, but it has hit that. And we've seen today that we've had some more purchases. BlackRock has purchased only yesterday, but it was 5 hours ago. You've seen Grayscale moving Bitcoin towards that. And then Wisdom Tree's been maneuvering some Bitcoin. Not really seen anything from BlackRock, but they've been coming in with nearly 1,500 Bitcoin purchases on the ETF just in July the 7th alone. Okay, so that's something that adds weight to the idea of Bitcoin making a move to the upside. But now this is where it gets interesting for us. How do you manage the expectation of Bitcoin at these all-time highs? The ultimate thing is this. Bitcoin primarily has not actually cleared the all-time high as much as we would need it to clear it, okay? It needs to actually break out higher, okay? Now, this is what I like to call a green vector candle coming into play, but not going anywhere, okay? And when you see a big candlestick coming up and only coming back into these ranges that they previously sold from, it does tell you that the concentration of people that have been selling the Bitcoin stops right here, okay? So when we go and have a look at the Bitcoin order flow, you can see bright as day that we've had a lot of short liquidations getting eaten, but equally, you've got all these orders here that have been cleared. Look at that. You saw it a second ago. Now it's disappeared. Now, this is what you've got to be careful of, and I'm going to put you onto a little bit of game here. In front of you, you can see the bids. These are all the bids, 50 million, 8 million, 7, 400, and what have you. I'm also going to pull up EXO charts, okay? Because, what the hell? Why is it doing that? Yeah, I'm going to pull up EXO charts because that's going to show us exactly where we are with Bitcoin. I'm just going to wait for it to load up. Here we go. And that's going to give us an understanding of where we are in terms of order flow. Because if we don't know what's actually being transacted on, then we're not going to know exactly who is committed to buying and selling. Okay? Now, this is what you got to look out for. The bids that are picking up inside of this range here, 15 million, 7 million, 1 million, 4 million, what have you. All these bids right here are coming in at speed. They want to try and get Bitcoin on the cheap, okay? Now, when we look at Bitcoin, if I just put this over here and show you. So let me just change the tick chart to about 50 right there. Okay, so this is Bitcoin right now, pulling back to 111,125, okay? Look at all these imbalances here, right? Inside of these imbalances are orders, okay? And this is the VWAP for the day at 109,000. If you have got positions right now in Bitcoin, I strongly recommend that you take something off the table, because what you've got to look for in terms of order flow is you need to start seeing the candlestick starting to make a recovery back up. They failed to do that with this range right here, telling me that they're now gunning for liquidity to the downside. You only need to start looking at NASDAQ in perspective of where we are in the charts, because NASDAQ itself hasn't really done anything. And if NASDAQ's not making an all-time high, then why has Bitcoin made this move so extensively to only come back and get back into the range that it's moved from? This is something that you need to see happening when it comes to an all-time high play. The candlestick in principle needs to stay above the midpoint of the vector candle. It has to stay above this point of 110,757 to consolidate in that range to prepare for the next rally or the next session, okay? It has to retain that point, because what you've got to be mindful of is if we go and have a look at Bitcoin on the daily time frame, you then got the problem of wicks, okay? Daily time frame, they wick up, they come down, they wick up, they come down. And this would be another wick, which could mean that the start of the next candle, which is the next daily candle, if it's going to sustain the truth that Bitcoin is going to continue higher, you need to see Bitcoin holding above key moving averages. The way you identify that, you go to the 15-minute time frame. Look at what you've got. You've got Bitcoin right now trading above the 5, the 13, and the 50 EMA. If you look at Bitcoin on the 1-hour time frame, you then say to yourself, what does momentum say to us? It says to us that price is above the 5 and 13 EMA, which are these two moving averages right here. And then it is above the 50 EMA, and it's also above the 200 EMA. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the logic says that Bitcoin is trending to the upside, okay? Now, what you've got to be careful of is this. We're at the range daily high, which is consistent with reversals. However, Bitcoin has been stuck inside of a range which does impact the range daily high and the range daily low, which means that they get compressed. It starts to get smaller because Bitcoin's price range is getting suppressed as well. It's not really going anywhere. It's not bringing volatility. And the only concerning thing I have about this move is it's just one candlestick rather than a progressive move up. That's what you got to identify when you're dealing with all-time highs. No different to this with the NASDAQ over here when it comes to looking at volume with all-time highs. Yes, they are moving up candle by candle by candle, but the volume isn't present on the NASDAQ. So that's just one of those alarm bells right there. Doesn't mean that you can't retain and hold on to the position, ladies and gentlemen. All you need to be mindful of and pay attention to is how price behaves at those key moving averages. So if Bitcoin, and you are already, how many are you in longs? How many of you are in longs? That's the thing, man. Bitcoin is pumping up not because of any news. The Fed hasn't given us anything. The Fed's not told us anything that we don't already know. That's the thing. And that's what's concerning about it. It may be a rally up, stop run, sweep, and then reverse, and then consolidate Bitcoin back into the range again. How many of you are in longs? How many of you have got profitable positions right now in Bitcoin? And you're asking yourself, what should I do? What should I do? Type 1, 500x short. You're short, you're short, you're short. Oh, my days. Shorting right now. Just heard the Fed chairman just retired. Nah, Jerome Powell hasn't retired. Don't even come with me on that. Trump's putting out 50% tariffs and that. Nvidia's hit $4 trillion market cap. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? How about that? Here we go. Trump cites Brazil's censorship orders on US social media. 50% tariff on Brazil. It's coming out. All right? It's all coming out. Here we go. How many of you are long hedged right now? Are you serious? Powell has not retired. Powell has not retired. Has Powell just retired? No. Hasn't. That's a lie. You're winding me up. I don't want him to go. No way. No way. No way. He hasn't retired. No way. Either that or he's been held at gunpoint for that. There is no way he's been retired. No. Anyway, is it FOMO effect, Tino? This thing right here? Look. NASDAQ has been making all-time highs, but Bitcoin hasn't. Okay? Remember, whilst NASDAQ's been moving up, Bitcoin has been stuck in this range. Now Bitcoin has made the move, but it's one candlestick. And it's this candlestick right here that's going to dictate it. It's going to dictate what the next story is for Bitcoin. I sold 80% of my Bitcoin holdings. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You're paying yourself and staying in the game. That's what you're doing. No limits up on Bitcoin, crypto. Let's go. No, it's John Powell who works for the co-op. This guy. I don't know why I read that. I think there was a headline saying that Powell was thinking about possibly stepping down. He's been forced to do that, ladies and gentlemen, straight up. I need a pump like this at the all-time high neckline for me to get my attention. It's way too early, right? Look, like I said to you, please pay yourselves because a lot of people are getting excited. We've got to remember Bitcoin has been consolidating and it has made a move up, okay? So just make sure you're taking something off the table. I'm not trying to piss on your little parade right now, but you've made money, so then do something about it. Take something off the table, all right? You can't behave like a hedge fund. In order to have a hedge fund capital, you got to behave like someone who is going in for the kill. You got to behave like a sniper. You got to get in and get out. Snipe in and out. Take your money and run. And I get it that some of you are in a bit of a situation where you're in spot and it's not that easy for you to just offload Bitcoin, but just do something about it and take something, because Bitcoin, especially with the ETF, when it hits all-time highs and moves such an aggressive way like this, okay, it will create the idea that everything is going to continue to go up. There is fundamentally every reason for Bitcoin to go up. And if you look at Bitcoin in the respect of the US dollar itself, the dollar is consolidating sideways, okay? And it's still trading positive for the day. And it does have room to continue to go back up. So this is what I'm not liking about it, is Bitcoin's been going up as the dollar has been moving up, okay? That is a problem. And then it tells you that maybe Bitcoin might be pulling a bit of a trap. I'm giving you the logic on both sides. You look at it from the daily time frame perspective, okay? Awesome, blue vector candle. That's something that's very important. You've just clipped the all-time high and the candlestick's not even showing strength to close positive or strongly towards the top end of the range. This candle needs to finish at the highest point of the candlestick as much as it can to give us the commitment that the bids have come in, they're collecting the orders, and then trying to continue to offer out to the upside. If you don't get that and this ends up becoming another candlestick that just pulls all the way back down, damn it, man, Bitcoin needs to stay at least above 110,500. It has to, because if it can't stay above that point, then we're triggering the idea of whole and half numbers. That means they like to sell above key whole and half number principles. That means above 110,500, that's where they can like to sell from. They've clipped 111,000 and clipped 112,000. So they could be selling from those points, okay? And then they'll bring it back down again. Just be mindful of it, ladies and gentlemen. Be excited, be happy your portfolios are increasing in value, but also do something about it, because there's no point in having a profitable position that's floating. In the end, you're going to end up floating with your head saying, why didn't I just close it? Because if it comes up, it can come straight back down, but just do something about it. And I'm not saying it to scaremonger you. I'm saying it because we are in uncertain markets. Where's the trend? Where is the trend? You get guys on X saying that it can either go up 5% or down 5%. Tells you that no one has a fucking clue where Bitcoin is going. Even though you've got all this accumulation, now you get one candlestick, it convinces everyone that that's the one. Okay, if that's the one, you need to make sure that Bitcoin is staying above the 5 and 13 EMA on the daily time frame for the long-term spot holders. Drop down to the 4-hour time frame and then say to yourself, hold on a second, where's the proof that this move is going to sustain itself? It needs to stay above the 5 and 13 EMA. That means it needs to sustain at least above the 5 EMA, which is right here at 110,180. And if it can sustain that, then that means it's going to come down, hit the midpoint of the vector candle. The next candle will come into play and start to recover back the wick that it created on the daily. That's what you're looking for. You also need to see at the same time all these bids coming into play, wanting to offer out even more. But the messed up thing is you're getting now even more bids coming into action. And that is a problem for me. I don't want the bids coming down here because the market will go to the expectation. The market will go to value. Okay? Doesn't matter if you think Bitcoin must hit 150,000. No, that's BS. It's irrelevant. You need to understand where Bitcoin expected value is. And based off order flow, it's clear as day that this whole range right here is an area of expected value. So if you've made money, do something about it. But don't give it back. Okay? I always encourage everyone to take some profits and leave the runners. The runners are the ones in the sense like you just say, for example, you take 50% of the position and then you leave it to run. And then that 50% still keeps you in the game of risk. Equally, it reduces the exposure on your account. You've already locked in some profit, so technically you're sitting on a trade for free. So that when it does come back down, you're only losing that profit that's already in the chart and not the profit that you've already banked. At the same time, you've also now got more capital to add to the trade if it starts to work in your favor. But if you're all in balls deep at the position right now and you've got yourself $2,000 profit and it keeps going down, and now you're at $1,000 profit, and then it keeps going down, you're at $500 profit, you're then saying to yourself, I ain't going to sit with $1,000, $500 profit. I was earlier on in a position that earned me $2,000 profit. Don't put yourself in a position to be questioning whether you should be accepting of the profit or not. Don't do that, because you will forever be having that question being answered all the time. And you'll always be moving the bar, saying, all right, I'm not happy with that. I'll move it to this. I want $1,000. Oh, I could have took $1,000. Oh, I want $500. I wish I could get $10 off this move. Forget that when you've already had like a couple of grand. That's something you've got to really put into perspective, ladies and gentlemen. What's this? I gave it all back. Why did you give it all back? Tino, XRP has held very well in comparison to the rest of the alts. Do you think that we will see a $5 anytime? You'll see a 5-cent move. Realistically, will we see a $5 XRP? You know what? I get concerned sometimes when I not procrastinate, but when I swear and say profanities on my live stream, right? I'll be honest with you. And it just comes out at me at times. But the true profanity is having to respond to a question from my guy Singularity asking me for a $5 XRP. I'm playing with you, man. Now, listen, look, jokes aside, okay? XRP is a very, very tricky asset, and it's got so much happening with it that it's one of those, you love it or you hate it. This is MXRP. It's Marmite. You either love it or you hate it, okay? I profoundly hate this asset. I hold it. I've got no choice but to love the fact that I hold it. Does it do anything for me? No. But a $5 XRP it'll be a very interesting time. A very interesting time. However, looking at the way that it's behaving, Bitcoin is the only one that's been clearing out all-time highs. Ethereum hasn't and XRP hasn't. Will Ethereum or XRP even clear an all-time high? Look what's going on with Ethereum, and with all the activity that's happening and everyone buying Ethereum, you think that this bad boy is going to explode. Where are we with the dominance itself? Here we go. Bitcoin dominance currently at 64%, okay? Well, dominance is going down. Altcoins should be climbing up. I mean, we look at Solana. Not really doing anything. BNB, okay. H-bar, yeah, all right. Whatever that is. Doge, coming up very nicely as well. So, ultimately, Bitcoin goes up. Altcoins go up. Okay, that's what I've been saying to you. How much of a move you're getting from it doesn't matter, if I'm honest with you. Now, I get that your bags might be caught up with certain altcoins and you're just looking for some more movement to the upside. I get that. But just play the game of DCA on the idea that we are in a rally to the upside, okay? On the logic that if we are going to be buying Bitcoin, okay, and it's in this move to the upside, let it go up, then it comes down. Because if this move right here on Bitcoin is going to prove to you that Bitcoin is going to continue even higher, you've got to ask yourself the DCA question, which is what? At what point do I then start to pick it up, okay? You've just cleared a little bit of the all-time high. Is this going to then continue to the upside? If it is, it's going to pull back into the same zone that it moved from. It's going to then consolidate, try and stay a little bit higher, and then it's going to try and make the move even further higher. So this is where you do your DCA. That's where you do it, inside of there. You don't do your DCA, okay, from here, and then you're in a downward spiral on the marketplace, and it keeps on going down, it keeps on going down, and it keeps on going down. I mean, if you're going to be able to absorb from 110,000 all the way down to where it dropped down to 74, if you can absorb nearly a 35 grand move-ish, and your capital will allow you to do that, fine. This is all a perfect DCA opportunity, okay? But if you're playing smaller moves, okay, when you get the opportunity to load up on Bitcoin after a clearance of a range, okay, just make sure that the criteria of price trading above key moving averages, okay, price then trading above 5 and 13 EMA on the smaller time frames to sustain the idea that momentum is developing, okay, so that when you do decide to buy, okay, The idea is it's going to continue to rally up. Take the idea of the macroeconomics, roll over to that side and say, you know what? I can see that things are looking promising. The Fed's told us nothing. Trump's putting out tariffs. The market doesn't care about tariffs anymore because they don't take it seriously. You go over to the NASDAQ and you say to yourself, what's NASDAQ doing? Yes, it's holding out, stalling at its all-time highs, but they got the information they wanted that the rate cuts might be happening at some point this year. Okay, but we are concerned about inflation just a little bit. When we go into the calendar for next week, this is where it starts to get interesting. CPI data comes out. That's going to be the deciding factor. So maybe they've moved Bitcoin's price now to absorb the fact that maybe the CPI data is going to come in and show a different story. Because if inflation goes up on next week's reading, because they're expecting where we are. Hold on. Right, so the last reading was 2.4. They haven't yet updated it, okay? But if they have an expectation that inflation's going to go up without tariffs, what do you think tariffs are going to do? Tariffs, of course, are going to bring the inflation higher. So then that would explain why the NASDAQ is not making some breakout move to the upside. That would then explain why the NASDAQ's not coming up with movement to the upside with volume. So then that would explain why Bitcoin's made a quick move to the upside because they've been consolidating Bitcoin in this range and they've pumped it up to only come back down again. Macroeconomically speaking, in my opinion, if Bitcoin was not part of the macros and not subject to the stock market, right, Bitcoin should be at easily 125K completely. But it spends too much time consolidating and then it pumps up once to only give it back. Do something about it. Because the vector candles that come into play every single time, you see a nice pump to the upside. All right, you get this nice little move here. It's not an all-time high, okay? But then you get a nice move here, which is an all-time high. Not even an all-time high, sorry. Where was it? Yeah, there you go. At that point, it wasn't an all-time high. But when you get an all-time high candle, you need to wait for the proof of that. And if it comes down, look how it breaks the 5 and 13 EMA. If it breaks those moving averages, you're going to the next moving average. That should give you the clue that it's not ready to continue back up. When it comes back down to a moving average and consolidates, that's when you should say to yourself, right, I'm going to get ready to start buying here because I believe there's going to be some short-term momentum. Let me explain to you. See this right here with the M formation, right? This is important, okay? That's an M formation that sent Bitcoin back down, right? This is what the expectation is at all-time highs. Price makes the move up, it consolidates sideways. People play around in this range trying to capture the idea of price continuing its move higher, okay? It doesn't actually manage to do it, and then it clips the high, and then it starts to pull back. It breaks a moving average, comes down, tests the key moving average, then consolidates. Buy the dip, ladies and gentlemen, buy the dip. That's what that's saying right here in this range. Once the dip has been suppressed and they've actually completed it, they then start to rally back up, giving the illusion of the guys that went long over here, it's going to do exactly the same thing and go even higher. All right. So this is where you're getting traders trapped inside of this range. That's why you see a green vector candle there coming into play, but not going anywhere and spiking the ranges. Equally, that's exactly what we're looking for over here. Okay. That's the same logic we're looking for. Don't you see it's the same here? Look at that. Up, down, back up, rip. Okay. Let me repeat that. Traders that came into play with Bitcoin at this move to the upside, anticipating Bitcoin's going to make the move and continue to the move to the upside to take out the all-time high, all started buying Bitcoin in here. Climatic candle right there of the green vector showed you that. What do they fail to do? They fail to even clear that range. It starts to top out. Then what happens? It breaks a key moving average, 5 and 13 EMA right there on the 4-hour time frame. Green vector candle point, okay. They bring it back down. Guess what? Buy the dip. Buy the dip again, ladies and gentlemen. You start buying the dip, and the same guys that missed out on the opportunity of Bitcoin to be bought up here start thinking that now it's going to go back to that same point that they originally started to buy from. So all the traders that are looking for break even are still starting to add positions here, thinking that they can increase their position and reduce the loss from that move to the upside because they bought at the wrong time, and they're going to think that this move up is going to sustain that. How do they get conviction of that? They confirm it with the green vector candle. And they stay committed to the chart. What happens? The next candle comes in, rips it, breaks a moving average, rolls over. Now explain to me what you think's going off over here. It's the same logic, ladies and gentlemen. Exactly the same thing. They will repeat the same shit over and over again. Yes, they do. Do they call me Constantino when you're in trouble? Nah. They don't call me Constantino when I'm in trouble. My mother calls me bastard. Yeah, she don't call me by my name. But anyways. Any questions? $192,000 worth of Bitcoin shorts liquidated in the last 192 million. Yeah, that is sad. Price has not coincided with all the buying they claim has been going on. Yeah. That is something that you got to really the thing is the accumulation on the ETF, okay, naturally makes people believe that when you see this big move here, it's going to trigger people to sell the ETF. You've got to appreciate that, because look at it like this, right? You're getting a nice little move up with the ETF, 111. No, sorry, where are we at? You're getting 63.59. Hold on. 63.59. No, it's not, Mike. It's this structurally from an ETF perspective, or as an investor of the ETF, okay? The breakout for this failing in principle, because it's closed and it hasn't actually fully closed above the high of it, all right? ETF players tomorrow or tonight will start putting orders in to take profits, because this range of consolidation here naturally going to give them profits. But because futures markets impact the way Bitcoin behaves, tomorrow, if Bitcoin goes down before the open, all the players that have effectively got profits are going to end up seeing them getting eaten. So if they are short-term in the ETF and you've got true Wall Street players coming into play, then the idea is that those guys are going to want to take their profits, which means that we could end up seeing some sell orders coming into play tomorrow, okay? Because it's the only logical thing for them to do. They've spent time in the consolidation area and they're going to want to get rid of that exposure, okay? Once they update this bad boy right here, then it will make sense, okay? Cool. Anything else? Yes, there's 1,300 of you and 291 of you don't. Well, you have shown some love. So mad love and respect for that. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, all the concepts that I've discussed to you regarding the hybrid system are all available on tradersreality.com. And the setups that I showed you earlier on, you can get access to those as a platinum member on the Traders Reality website. It's pinned to the top of the chat for anyone that wants to check that bad boy out. But there's lots more on the Traders Reality website regarding the hybrid system. With that being said, pay yourselves, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll be tuning into you all tomorrow morning. Mad love and respect. Peace.